been an absolutely incredible year for the Dunk line. Dunk Lows, Dunk Low Pros, SB Dunk Low Pros, all extremely fire sneakers, just wall to wall. I can't think of a single dunk that missed the mark this year. And here we are, we're coming up with one of the rarest sneakers of the year. It's very hard to get your hands on. We're talking a Middle East, United Arab Emirates release. And it's already probably dropped in the local area there. It talks about being November 30th, and then in the wider release, a more general release is coming on the 4th of December. So this video is kind of sitting right between those two drop dates. But when I saw this, I just couldn't help but bring it to the channel. It's such a unique looking shoe, but my first instinct upon looking at it was like, this shoe is a mix and match of a bunch of different shoes crammed in together. And what I'm going to do for you guys today is walk you through the details on this shoe that I think are borrowed from some of the other shoes out there and some of the more iconic shoes from the history of the Nike line, like some seriously massively iconic shoes, and also some more recent shoes that have dropped in recent times, and the details that have found their way into this shoe. So without further ado, let's get into this and take a closer look at the semi-upcoming release of the Nike SB Dunk Low HABIBI. This is the Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channelです。毎日アップするので、毎日見てください. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today we've got a really cracking dunk sneaker come to you guys that's got an awful lot going in it. But most of it, if not all of those hits, those features are borrowed from somewhere else in either the sneaker world or the fashion world. That really surprised me when I saw that. At first instinct, that's what I thought. Looking at it in more detail and digging into the shoe and looking at the different parts of the shoe, it's still what I think about it. And there's a lot, there really is an awful lot to talk about when it comes to this shoe. Very sort of limited release, unusual release. Like I said, it's a Middle East shoe, very rare. United Arab Emirates drop first, and then a slightly wider drop, but it's not going to be, you know, a general release. I don't think it's definitely going to have that sort of rareness about it, and then a unique tie-up, a collaboration with the Frame guys out there in United Arab Emirates. It's a really cool sneaker, very fire, lots of great detail on it. And like I said, this year with the dunks, it really has been incredible. I always talk about the 711s because I really hammered that shoe in the video and said, this guy is just, no, I don't like it, it's wrong for a ton of reasons. And then days later I found out that Nike were not going to go ahead with that drop and said, no, actually this isn't a shoe that we want to be putting out there. And then that was the only blip on the sort of, you know, history of 2020 Nike dunks, was the 711s. I was like, nah, just not for me. You've had the the Ben & Jerry's, had the Travis Scotts in there as well, Grateful Dead's. There's just been a seriously strong year for the dunk line. And then this coming out, a very specific, very unique collaboration, but it's still got that fire and still got that heat. But for me, just a little bit lacking. So sorry if you're checking this out from the Middle East. Sorry if you know, you're in the United Arab Emirates wondering who's talking about your shoe. But for me, it's just, there's too much of other stuff in there, not enough of the unique stuff in there. So that's for me is kind of my overall impression of the shoe. And I want to show you those details and talk about that on the shoe. Now, we're not going to have a green screen disaster today. If you watched the video, it was a Blazer video from last week, which I think was the Infinity Blue video. I had my Sakai Blazers, and I was like, look at this shoe, look at that shoe. But when I held up the Sakai Blazers, it turns out that the blue base on there reacts to the green screen, and it looked like I was holding up like a translucent, transparent thing, a shoe that wasn't there, sort of thing. So I'm not going to do that today, but we do want to start with the Sakai Blazers, because actually, you know what, not just the Sakai Blazers, Sakai Waffles as well. Anything Sakai is what I first instinct on this shoe, because double is the Sakai sort of image right now. It's their main point on their shoes. They double many things. They have double swooshes, double laces, even double tongues up there on the Sakai Blazers. And then this shoe, the first thing you see is that swoosh on the side, a double swoosh. So you've got to sort of say, you know, have they borrowed that from the Sakai guys over there. Interesting looking swoosh. It's green at the back and black at the front, and if you zoom in very closely, you'll see that the green part of that is corduroy, and a very sort of thick corduroy too. It's not subtle in any way. It's very kind of powerful and strong, and then laying on top of that is a black swoosh, slightly offset to give you that double swoosh effect, and it's a black tumbled leather swoosh. So the kind of contrast between the two colors in green and black on the swoosh, very cool, and the contrast in the two materials, corduroy and leather, tumbled leather, between the two materials on the swoosh as well, very cool as well. Bit sort of jarring to have a green and black swoosh on a red and white shoe. The contrast is good. It sort of helps things to pop out, but there are certain colours that contrast well with other colours, and black and green contrasting with white and red doesn't really do it for me. But I do think as well, talking about those swooshes there, I'm pretty sure it's a weird sort of thing for me. Hopefully I'm zooming in on it and you're seeing what I'm talking about. The midfoot white panel on there seems to have a textured feel to it. My instinct when I saw that was LeBron 7s. And there just seemed to be that kind of, I don't know, the material that makes up the sort of midfoot section on LeBron 7s, similar to that material on these guys, and hopefully I've explained that well enough and you can see it on the green screen here. So the sort of lateral side of the shoe, there's some details on there, but if we come out and have a look at the whole shoe, my first impression was that sort of borrowing from the Sakai line. Second impression, this looks like a Chicago something, whether it's a Chicago, a Jordan 1 or another sneaker. It's just that red and white color blocking on there. It feels like Chicago, and again, it's just not very, I don't know, it's not very unique, or it's not pushing the boundaries. It's a very obvious choice, so kind of like a little bit sort of like, couldn't you have done something a bit more with that one, guys? It's a great looking colorway. It probably would have looked fine with just a black swoosh on the side and not the green on there, and then just actually own that kind of Chicago feel. But it just, I don't know, it feels like it's trying a little bit too hard, if you know what I'm saying. But maybe that's just me. Maybe other people feel a bit differently about these guys. But then, so we go up onto, let's go to the tongues next, because the tongues have, again, a sort of Sakai feel about them. Now, the Sakai tongues on the blazers are not removable. Two of them running sort of side by side in there, and they're very distinct. They both have the branding at the top of them. They're both standard sort of tongues, just sewn together and then sewn into the shoe, but you can't remove one or the other. And there's a double detail on that with these guys. One is that the tongues up there have that double effect in white and black. Don't know why they didn't do white and red, but in white and black, but they have a removable element to it. So hopefully what I'll be able to do is show you a picture here of a sort of layout of the shoe, kind of all deconstructed with one of the tongues missing. I think it's the white tongue removed, and there's also another picture that shows you a black tongue on one and a white tongue on another, so you can get a bit experimental with those double tongues up there on the top of these guys, and one, like I say, one in white and one in black. And then if you go back from that and have a look down at the insole, very unique branding on the insole, with Nike swoosh on one and then the frame on the other, and a really sort of interesting kind of pattern in there. Very unique. This is something that's I've not seen before. It feels like their own design. It's not something that they've borrowed from somewhere else. So very cool looking insole with an interesting, very intricate design going on in there. Quick look to the back of these guys, only because it's a dunk and you have to look at the back of dunks because of that branding panel up there, and how the word Nike rarely, if ever, fits into that branding panel with its lopsided sort of E on the side there. And then we'll come back to the front of the shoe, to the laces, and again, this might look like a really fire detail to many people, and they're like, wow, that's very cool, the tessellated laces with the red and the white sort of little blocking patterning throughout. But to me, again, it's borrowing a design feature from women's fashion. You'd see this in sort of high-end women's fashion in like power suits, like blazer and skirt, for example, or just a skirt, or some kind of scarf or muffler sort of thing with that tessellated effect on there. So again, it's kind of borrowed from elsewhere. It's not, it just doesn't feel unique to the shoe. But what is unique to the shoe is at the end of the laces, the aglets down there have unique branding, different branding on each one, which is something I really like to see. I like it when there's alternate things designs because it's easier to make, you know, all the aglets the same, for example, just Nike or Frame or whatever, but having them alternate takes a little bit extra money, a little bit more extra effort, but then that means they've put a bit more time into the shoe, so that's a big plus. And then we'll finish this up by coming out and having a look at the whole shoe, and hopefully what you're getting is a sense of that sort of borrowed feel that I'm talking about, taken from the Sakai's, taken from any Chicago shoe you want to pick, maybe even taken from those LeBron 7s, and then but what you can't really see in great detail but is worth talking about is the outsole, in that gum outsole in there, which is a good choice on these shoes. I think it really goes well with those Chicago colours from above, but not necessarily so well with that green and black swoosh on there. So it just feels like they're trying a bit too hard, a little bit too much on the shoe. It just, I don't know, it's almost like they've made, it's like a pick and mix. I don't know if you have them in the other parts of the world, but the UK pick and mix is just a bunch of like candies, sweeties, and you just grab the ones you want and then make yourself a bag of sweeties with all these different kinds in it. And that's what this shoe feels like. Just the guys have grabbed a bit out of Sakai, a bit out of Chicago's, a bit out of LeBron, a bit out of women's fashion, but where on there is a bit out of them, you know, their unique feeling into the shoe, instead of just sort of borrowing from other people's sort of ideas and design things. So that's my take on it. In the year of like amazing dunks, the bar is set so high, the standard is so high, and for me, I just don't feel like these ones get there. And that's just me. People in the Middle East might be screaming at me and telling me that they hate me and that they don't agree. Feel free to do that. I love it when people have a difference of opinion, and I especially love it when they explain why they have a difference of opinion. So definitely hit me up with a comment down below doing that. But for now, it's time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content, and I'll say what I say at the end of every single video, which is that I do this every single day. So you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.